Is the film Black Panther liberal or conservative? It was a mega hit at the box office and caused some controversy among audience members. So let's find out what ideology caused all this fuss. Black Panther is not only the biggest superhero film of 2018, it's also the biggest film of 2018. Oh, wait, never mind. Avengers took back that crown, so I guess number 2's not bad. The film has been widely praised for basically everything, and audiences couldn't get enough of it. So much so that it grossed over $1 billion at the box office, making it the 9th highest grossing movie of all time. There is clearly some cultural significance to this film. We all know that superhero movies are everywhere these days, so when another one is released and it actually stands out amongst the crowd, to me, that makes it important. Since we know that movies can influence our culture, I think it's important if we look at a mega hit like Black Panther and see whether or not it's actually more liberal or more conservative. And although I admit that there's a lot of political messages hidden in this movie, I'm only interested in the ideology behind it, so no politics for me. And if you want to share your political perspective, hey, I can't stop you, but I couldn't care less. For this assessment of the film's ideology, we're going to be focusing on 3 key elements, which is content, characters, and message. And obviously there's going to be some spoilers ahead, so I wouldn't want to commit the grave sin of ruining one of the MCU movies for you, so if you do want to stick around, you can't say I didn't warn you. Content. Black Panther is the story about a man who must assume the role of king in an advanced, hidden city in Africa who comes under the threat of an outsider seeking the throne. The film was rated PG-13 for prolonged sequences of action, violence, and a brief, rude gesture. Pretty standard stuff for a Marvel movie, and I'm assuming that one brief, rude gesture is when one character flips the bird, and all I have to say about that is, what? Since when does the MPAA flag films for people giving the middle finger? Don't like most movies have that? Oh my gosh, can you believe that? That's so briefly rude. Aside from obvious CGI in some scenes, there's a lot of beautiful scenery and interesting set pieces in the fictional city of Wakanda. Yes, I hate to break it to you out there who did not get the memo, but Wakanda is not a real place. Also, vibranium is not real.
Obviously.
Director Ryan Coogler does a good job of showing us a world with characters we have not seen before, but the film also falls into some of the classic tropes of a Marvel movie. When I look at the content of the film, I see both new and traditional, so I'm gonna say the content is a little bit of both. Characters. It could be said that Black Panther is actually an ensemble piece because there are so many supporting characters here, all played by great actors. This includes Angela Bassett, Lupita Nyong'o, Martin Freeman, Forrest Whitaker, and even Andy Serkis with his actual face this time. But to simplify this, there are 2 central characters that drive the plot of the film. The main hero, T'Challa, aka Black Panther, and the main villain, Eric Stevens, aka Killmonger. You know, if I ever did actually meet a guy named Killmonger, I'd probably assume he was a villain. T'Challa looks to take up the throne as king of Wakanda, but struggles with the legacy of his father's mistakes, while Killmonger is a man with a lot of zits on his body who is hell-bent on taking the throne from T'Challa once it's discovered that their fathers were brothers. Inevitably, these 2 duke it out in a sanctimonious ritual of who's going to be king of Wakanda. I can't imagine if we had the same tradition here in America, who would be king?
The Stone Cold Septum.
Once Killmonger defeats T'Challa, he assumes the throne and orders Wakanda to start providing vibranium to the oppressed around the world so they can start fighting back. As expected, T'Challa returns and a final battle for the throne takes place and Killmonger is defeated, but not without T'Challa sympathizing with Killmonger's motives. Both men are fierce warriors and they end up mostly on the same page by the end of the film, but unfortunately, Killmonger is kind of a loose cannon.
It is our tradition. Breathe, my king, breathe.
We actually see that T'Challa's motivations are changed as a direct result of Killmonger's backstory and arc. So considering the transitions that we see in the character arcs that take place, I think the characters are actually a little more liberal. Message. Now there's definitely a lot of symbolism and social commentary going on in this film. Some of them including the differing philosophies of Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, and the history of oppression in the United States. The main question at the center of the plot is what is the best approach to helping those who have been oppressed? Now vibranium has the power to essentially do everything and anything, so when T'Challa realizes that Killmonger has a point in having Wakanda help those in need, it's hard to argue against it. I mean, it could probably solve a lot of my problems, like not going to the gym so I can look as shredded as these guys when I'm 40. Black Panther sends out a lot of themes about what is the right thing to do in helping the oppressed, and by the end of the film, it actually sends the message that the villain was right when our hero decides to follow his lead. Now, it's not every day where you see a film where the hero's resolve is actually justifying the villain's motivations, so I'm gonna say the message is a little more liberal. I'm thinking Black Panther is actually a more liberal movie. Makes sense to me because the film really did stand out amongst the crowd of superhero films we're seeing these days and made a big impact on our culture. That being said, I'm not gonna pretend it's a perfect movie. This is just my opinion, so if you agree or disagree, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching and subscribe for more videos like this.